The Bunker. I'm sure the very first thing you're thinking must be, oh no, not another full motion video game review. It's true, I love the genre, with the Tex Murphy games being the best games in the genre that I played. However, that's not what this is. I would call this an interactive movie, and even that's being generous. You have to click on certain highlighted items in the scene, or don't. Most of what you click on is just bonus content that just fleshes out the story. There are no different paths, unless you count going into a random room that isn't necessary. Unlike a great deal of full motion video games that are on the Switch, this feels like someone just made a movie and turned it into an interactive experience by adding a few buttons. This has you controlling the lone survivor of a fallout shelter. He was born in this shelter with only his mother and over 50 people. After she dies, he has to keep up the repetition of his life in order to keep safe. However, one day his 30-year life of repetition is thrown out of whack when the system breaks down and he needs to repair it. He has to brave parts of the bunker he hasn't been in years and solve the mystery of what happened to all the residents of the bunker and why he's now alone. Now, the way the story is presented, the creator really wants you to think they're being clever and giving us twists and turns all over the place. However, getting to the end of this thing, the answer is so obvious. I'm sure without even playing this, you might actually guess what happened to these people. This was actually filmed in an old nuclear bunker, which really helped with the authenticity of the environment. However, it feels like they kind of just wrote a story around it. At first, I thought it was odd that a bunker that held over 50 people only had 2 beds. But then I noticed in the title screen, there's a shot of bunk beds. And I kind of had to do the work in my head that maybe after everyone died, they made their own rooms. Why didn't the game explain this? If you don't see that 2-second video clip, you'd be so confused after you finish this. However, there is still no explanation on how these people took showers. You can see all their living conditions. No showers anywhere that I can see. Now, there's a toilet. Now, let's get into that insanity. It has no doors whatsoever and no privacy. Okay, fine, you're all alone. But why the fuck are you storing food in here too? This is just nuts. You can see him eating on the toilet as well. Yum! Peaches and poo. What a classy way to have dinner. Oh wait, look in the back room. That actually might be the shower. You know, the one blocked by a ton of boxes of sardines and peaches? What a combination there. They must be washing themselves in the sinks. Ugh, they must smell really bad. I guess he wouldn't notice it since it's just himself because his mom dies a year prior to the story. This has you moving a cursor around to click on things. Most of the time you're not on a clock to click on things, so the clunkiness of the cursor was just fine. However, it did become a problem in one part of the game, where you'll die if you don't click on a part fast enough. More annoyingly, there is no skip scene option. You're gonna have to do scenes over again, and this could take a few minutes. They do try to break up the click on things monotony by having you drag the cursor or having you tap a lot. It was okay, but it just seemed unnecessary. The title will take about 2 hours to beat if you spend your time clicking on random objects that are lit up. If you don't, you can beat this much faster. There are collectibles to find if you really want to, but that would mean you'd have to replay this game. And since there's no skip scene option, it's going to be a long replay of it, so I just wouldn't bother. Now, there are 2 endings to this title, and neither of them are satisfying. I really didn't like the last part of the ending, as it tried to throw a ghost story out of nowhere in it, and I don't think it worked. If you want to see both of the endings, you're going to have to go through about 5 minutes of the same scenes as you just went through. The Bunker was just an interactive movie, and as a movie, it was just okay. It was really dull in parts, and the fact you couldn't skip scenes was very frustrating. And that's kind of a staple of these types of games. The stories you're playing, it kind of feels like it might be going in an interesting direction, but then it just kind of ends in the most predictable way. I picked this up for a little bit over $5, and I have to say to myself, is this even worth playing? No. It's not the worst full motion video game I played on the Switch, but it's definitely the most boring. I know they were trying to set up complexity in order to make it scary when he had to venture out. Even when the character does venture out, it's not as interesting as the story thinks it is. So I would say just skip it.